All right, let's jump right into this explainer because we are about to fundamentally shift how you look at money, status, and what it actually means to be rich. We usually think of wealth strictly in terms of math and flashy numbers on a screen. But as we're about to see, the psychology behind it all is way more fascinating and honestly a whole lot more important. I want you to consider your own attitude towards money for just a second. Picture a little Stickman animation in your head right now, okay? A sleek, roaring Ferrari pulls up next to our stickman at a red light. Be honest with yourself here. When that fancy sports car drives by, are you actually admiring the driver? Or are you just picturing yourself behind the wheel, imagining how incredibly cool you would look to everyone else? And boom, that right there brilliantly illustrates our first major paradigm shift. Author Morgan Housel calls this the man in the car paradox. Basically, it's this total illusion that spending a fortune to show off actually buys you the respect of strangers. But in reality, onlookers do not care about the guy in the car. They're just using his fancy car as a mirror for their own desire to be admired. It's a complete psychological trap. Which leads us straight into section 1, the trap of never enough. Take a guy like Sam Bankman-Fried. Here was a guy who, at just 29 years old, was worth over $20 billion. I mean, he literally had more money than anyone could ever spend in 1,000 lifetimes. But he risked it all, and he lost it all, to chase more status, more control, more power. Why? Because he never defined what enough meant. For him, the goalpost just kept moving. But look, this trap doesn't just catch greedy billionaires. It completely wrecks the everyday worker, too. 78%. That is a staggering number. 78% of American workers are living paycheck to paycheck right now. They're walking on this dangerous financial edge where just one random emergency could send the whole thing crashing down. Now, you might be thinking, well, obviously they just need to earn more money. But actually, no. The data shows that 1 in 10 workers earning over $100,000 a year are also living paycheck to paycheck. So the rat race isn't just about your salary. Even a 6-figure income absolutely cannot save you if you have a massive spending problem. Your ego can so easily outpace your paycheck. So the real secret here is understanding the relationship between production and consumption. For most of us, money comes in through our production. The value we provide via our labor, our unique skills, whatever it is. And money leaves through consumption, buying lifestyle items, cars, endless subscriptions. The hard truth you have to accept is that no amount of massive income production can save you if your consumption is completely out of control. And that brings us to a pretty harsh reality check. Section 2, looking rich versus being rich. We really need to separate the illusion of wealth from actual wealth. There is a massive contrast here. Looking rich involves loud things, right? Fancy cars, luxury watches, high consumption. But being rich is totally silent. It is all about invisible assets, money sitting quietly in investments, emergency funds, and ultimately just pure peace of mind. Think about it. Spending money to show people how much money you have is literally the absolute fastest way to have less of it. If you need proof that looking rich can completely destroy you, just look at the legendary boxer Mike Tyson. Over the course of his career, he accumulated an unbelievable $300 million. That is an absurd amount of wealth. But by 2003, he filed for bankruptcy. He was completely broke, drowning in $30 million of debt. Because, like we said, production means absolutely nothing if you don't control your consumption. Now, hold that massive, flashy loss in your head for a second and compare it to this number. $8 million. This represents the ultimate hidden fortune, and the story behind it is seriously mind-blowing. This absolute fortune belonged to a guy named Ronald Reed. And Ronald was a janitor. He was a gas station attendant. He never earned a massive salary in his entire life. But when he passed away, he had quietly amassed an $8 million fortune simply by consistently saving and investing over decades. He didn't care about looking rich. He proved once and for all that your behavior with money matters way, way more than your intelligence or the size of your paycheck. So if we want to build lasting, invisible wealth like Ronald Reed, we have to flip the script. Section 3, production over consumption. But to actually do this, we first have to defeat what behavioral economists call the ostrich effect. You definitely know this feeling. It's that terrifying urge to just bury your head in the sand and hide from negative financial information, like when you refuse to check your bank account after a really expensive weekend out. Yeah, we've all been there. But we have to face the numbers if we ever want to change the numbers. So let's break down the actual actionable steps to escape this rat race. Picture our little stickman friend from earlier bravely climbing out of the maze. Step 1, draw awareness to your consumption by actually journaling your expenses. Step 2, take control of your behavior through budgeting, which just means living below your means. And step 3, focus heavily on producing relative value to the market. And producing value can take so many different forms. Maybe you're finding a problem and creating a massive solution through entrepreneurship. Maybe you're utilizing unique skills like video editing or coding on the internet. Or maybe you're simply providing excellent, reliable labor at a standard 9-to-5 job. Increasing your wealth relies directly on maximizing the value you produce for society while keeping a really tight lid on what you consume. Which brings us to our final section, Section 4. Time is the ultimate currency. Now, you might be wondering, why go through all this effort? Why budget and save and focus on production instead of just buying all the flashy stuff right now? Well, consider this brilliant definition. Savings is the gap between your ego and your income. When you finally keep your ego in check, when you stop playing the man in the car game and trying to impress random people, you create savings. And those savings, they buy you the most valuable thing on earth, flexibility. As Morgan Housel so perfectly puts it, the greatest dividend that money pays isn't a new Rolex or a designer outfit. It is total control over your own time and your own freedom. The ability to just wake up every single morning and say, I can do whatever I want today. That is the absolute pinnacle of success. Because true wealth is what you do not see. It's the money you didn't spend. It's the unbought luxury car that instead gives you the power to walk away from a toxic job, right? It's the cushion to handle a sudden medical emergency without completely panicking. Or it's simply the freedom to live life entirely on your own terms. True wealth is silent. So, as you look at your own financial life after watching this explainer, I want to leave you with this final provocative question. Are you playing your own long-term game for freedom? Or are you sacrificing your precious time and peace of mind just to impress total strangers at a red light? Choose your game wisely.